460.
460, yeah. No.
I should have told him to carry more. That was pretty disappointing.
Did you say 3460?
460.
Match score.
Oh.
Yeah.
What was your damage though?
32 something or other.
He only had 17 kills though. It's pretty weak.
Oh, okay. That's
Check.
my new goal, is to beat 18. Because apparently that's the highest I've got.
For kills? That's pretty good.
I don't know, I want to get 20. That's the goal, there we go. 20 kills.
You guys are ready to drop, right?
Yep.
User joined your channel.
Spent the whole day today fixing my truck because it didn't start. So I missed work.
Does it start now?
That's not good.
Alright guys, welcome. My name is Phil.
After 8
from
hours of
Northwest
labor.
Galaxy, and I just want to say welcome to another Town Hall.
After 8 hours.
What was the cost?
I had like parts all over the driveway.
Quick shout out to everyone.
What was the cost?
$86, I think.
and other members of the
No, sorry, not the
Thank you guys
cost,
so
the
much for
cause.
taking the time at night for
It
helping
was
us. Also
the
shout out to all of you
main
who are joining us
wire
live.
from the starter and the battery.
Yeah.
Sure.
I had decided to correct the crap.
Do it.
I am doing
Wouldn't
great.
you,
really looking
I would
forward to
expect
hearing
that to
more
be a
about the future development
low
of community
degradation
warfare,
kind of thing where you
as a
notice
lot
the
of us,
difference.
as well as other
my
exciting
client is
insights Russ
freaking
has
out.
in store for us tonight, hopefully.
We've had some
On that
starting
note,
issues with it.
Russ has joined us tonight to discuss
several
various
months,
topics
but
within
it was rare.
MechWarrior Online, including the newly
And I
launched Community
replaced
Warfare,
the starter,
in-game
the
voice communication,
ignition switch,
faction chat, Q-info, call to arms, new maps, his thoughts on
relay,
4v4,
etc.,
single-player PvE,
I have dropships
and a lot
and
more based on all the
airstrike
questions
ships
that
like
you've already
flying all over
submitted.
the sky. I'm
We
like,
have gathered
it's
many,
pretty
many
cool.
pages of questions from you over the
Screenshot.
last few
There's
days.
your
But if
screenshot.
you'd like to submit questions live, post them in chat, and they'll be added to the list in order of
this
relevance
screenshot
and
right here,
uniqueness. There are always a lot of repeat and overlapping
about?
questions, and we're limited by time. So if we don't get to your questions, please
Renegade
understand,
Max.
and hopefully we'll get to your questions next time.
I think he's
A
saying
quick
his rank
disclaimer:
is
although we
Brigadier
are
General,
not censoring
which
any
is,
of the questions, some
not
have
very
been
common.
shortened or modified in order to make them easier to read and
they're
understand
amazing.
without
sounds
losing
They're
the
very
context
Surat.
of the original point, hopefully. Tonight's
Because
chat will
I
be
got
moderated, so
nothing here.
please keep it civil and don't be
Maybe
rude.
free stands for
And
freeborn.
without further ado, let's get started. How are you doing tonight, Russ?
Doing great. Glad to be back. Happy New Year, everybody. Glad to be at the first town hall for this year. And let's get started. Let's get all the questions in we can. There's lots of information to share.
Absolutely, Phil. You want to take it first?
Yeah, let's do it.
Hey, Aurelio, which mech and loadout did you do the majority of your damage last match with?
Such as UI 2.0.
I don't know. Probably the crows. Crows usually do it. I go first one. I don't remember what I got for my first mech.
That's like a lot of topics. Can you...
Let's do.
I'm getting them all mixed up. I've been playing this game too long.
Whoa.
That's the first question, eh? That's
Bad
like
Major.
the number 1 subject on everyone's mind.
Well, within that question, he's also bringing
Does
up
someone else
UI.
have-
So I'm sure you want to say something about
Like, I
UI,
don't lag too
voiceover
often, but every
or
once in a while,
voice
Max
chat
will,
in game,
teleport.
and faction chat. I know you have
Like
things
rubber
to
banding?
comment on VoIP and
Sounds like a
faction
serious
chat. If you want
problem.
to start with that.
It's not necessarily rubber banding in that they're like teleporting back.
Yeah,
It's like
okay, I
they
can
teleport
start with that.
So it's like
I can tell everybody that
lag.
a
Yeah,
couple
I have that.
designers have been
don't
working
see other
pretty
ones.
much full time now for
Jump vertically.
the past month plus leading up to Christmas, and since we've been back with creating a completely new, updated design for the front end user interface. Now, I want everyone to take that with a grain of salt because that is a significant amount of work, and it's one of the most difficult tasks to get right in any game. And obviously, MechWarrior is a very complex learning curve and very complex user interface that you've heard me say it too, and it's state that maybe the one large blemish in 2014 was UI2. It's just not good enough, and it's gone through quite a bit of improvements in kind of the middle part of 2014. They made it quite a bit better, but there's still lots of it that needs to be better yet. But right now the big risk is really centered around, do we undertake the kind of effort it takes to completely revamp and completely restart, or do we improve and rewrite aspects of it? Now, stepping back, the design is a complete design, meaning it's not just updating MechLab. It's certainly a part of it. So you can think of a Smurfy style, fully functioning MechLab. That's really where we started, and then it was just very natural to, from there, realize that there's a lot of ways we can do
if we want
pilot
really crazy,
skills and mech trees and all those other trees, and integrate it into other environments more efficiently than where it is currently. So then it just quickly balloons from there, right? It's like you do that and then you do that, and then it's like, well, let's rework the entire thing for a first-time user experience. And so you do all that, and next thing you know, you're sitting on top of such a lengthy, complex design that you're scared shitless to try and actually undertake all the work. So we have a meeting scheduled on Monday to decide the exact course of action. So this is certainly not something that, like, hey guys, it'll patch in February, it's all there. It's going to take a while. We could try to prioritize a couple aspects of it, like the MechLab in particular, because that's one of the, I guess, main thing that our player base has been waiting on for a while now. And then after that, of course, you might naturally talk about first-time user experience for a growing product, and going to things like Steam and stuff, and expecting a lot of players to show up that you don't want to be lost. And of course, a brand new tutorial becomes a major part of that as well. So I guess that's how I'll summarize that aspect around the UI, is that next step, big meeting on Monday to go over an entire presentation from the design team, and we'll certainly have feedback on it. So again, it's not imminent, but we have a complete design present, and there you go. So maybe you could move on to one of the other subjects, but that's how I'd answer that one.
Sure, no, that's great for UI 2.0. He also asked about VoIP and faction chat. Definitely both of those. Well, faction chat is more based towards community warfare. VoIP could cross between both or all forms of gameplay. Do you want to touch on either of those?
Well, yeah. So VoIP is certainly something that we've been talking about for a long time, and it certainly has the potential to help out in a lot of different areas, right? I mean, first off, just think of public use. You got your group, a larger group, mid-sized group, and you've got a bunch of other random pugs making up the rest of the group. Now you have a way to, press a key and to talk to them and say, hey guys, the plan is we're going left. And general communication. If there's an entire group of solos, like in the solo queue, then they have a way of talking to their team. So that's great. And then moving on to community warfare, this really coincides with grouping with your faction members, but we'll save that subject for later. But you will have the ability now to talk to random players as well on your team to try and coordinate them a little bit. So timing is the part that's exciting here. It's already working in-house, it's done. The part that isn't done is implementing some UI functionality so that you can mute a player, and some of those things that you turn it off, the chat channel or the, some people might choose to turn it off. But you have to give all the options to players to, mute certain players. So the design for that work is done, and the actual VoIP itself is working. So we hope to start the production of the UI aspects within days. So it'll probably make a patch in February, which is pretty exciting. I mean, it's right now not lined up to be part of February 3rd. I think that's a low possibility, but the one after that, I think you can call it probable. So it's going to make one a fairly soon patch. Good chance of February, if not right after that. So you're coming up on VoIP pretty quickly here. So that's a really nice surprise. I think that we can finally get that in the game, and everyone can take advantage of it, and it should make a big difference for just accomplish all the things I talked about.
Yeah, that's actually huge. Now, Phil and I found out about this a few days ago, and it actually surprised us that it was that far along in development and coming that soon to the game. Would you mind? Can you mention any specifics as far as like what type of VoIP it is, or anything like that?
New target.
What client?
Well, we are. Well, I guess I can. I mean, right now it looks to be the TeamSpeak SDK. So we were researching a secondary option, which is Vivox, which is integrated in some other products, and you know, the C3 client even, which was Vivox. But then, you know, games like World of Tanks and a few others, they have, that's what's integrated in there. So it's a great solution too. It's good technology. That company's gone through some changes, and they look to be, you know, a very viable option. But I think TeamSpeak right now, it looks like, you know, that's the one that you're going to play with, because it just seems to be the right solution for our size of game. You know, it should be a perfect solution for us. So can't go wrong with it, right? We're all talking on TeamSpeak right now. Everyone's familiar with it, but just so everyone's clear, it's not TeamSpeak like, you know, TeamSpeak 3, like the separate standalone client. It's a TeamSpeak SDK, so it's completely integrated within the product and totally hidden. You just, the only thing you'll have really is a key binding inside of the menu, and you just press the key and talk. So you can certainly continue to use TeamSpeak for your own, you know, unit and drops, but again, if you want to communicate with those that aren't part of your actual unit or group, then you can use the in-game client or in-game VoIP functionality.
Excellent. And then the final aspect of his question. Well, we know faction grouping is coming. So his question is faction chat. I'm assuming that's a UI thing as well, but can you tell us anything about faction grouping and faction chat?
Right, so faction grouping is going to be available this coming Tuesday, January 20th. So that's awesome. But right out the gate, it's going to be, I guess, relatively sort of, you know, hidden to users, because you'd ask yourself, like, how do I know who to invite into my, you know, my group? You know, unless they're on your friends list or whatnot, you can't, because there's no faction chat, looking for group window, etc. So you kind of be limited to those that you know in your friends list already. You play a match and you see a couple solo, you know, faction members in that match. You can, of course, reach out to them after and invite them to your group. So there'll still be some challenges at the gate as far as exactly how you find those people, except units that are friendly with each other, of course, and you know each other, and some of your guys have logged late at night, and you can then, you know, talk to each other and form up, and you know, form a few smaller groups into one larger one. So it will definitely help. It'll have its benefits, but I think the feature that's going to tie it together, of course, is the faction chat. And the faction chat functionality is in a very similar situation to VoIP. It's finished. The guys, you know, back-end perspective have coded it. We can do it. It's just now a matter of the UI and what's the design on how we limit it. As you can imagine, there's a lot of concern about just going full-on global faction chat, and you know, just having it, everyone able to go in there and just spam it. So there needs to be some design around how do you limit the number of messages that can be sent, how do you limit spam, how do you perhaps even go a little bit further and limit exactly who can chat in that thing. So that design is, you know, within a day of being complete as well, and then we can, so very similar to VoIP. Do we have a chance of seeing it in February? Yeah, I think there's a very reasonable chance of seeing it in February. So very similar situation. I'm not promising you in February, but it'll be close.
No.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Tychorius Davion, for your questions. Phil, you want to take the next one?
Alright, next question we have is, how is the optimization of the game going currently in regards to UI and HUD, or FPS in general? And I think this is in regards to just overall, but also community warfare, people reporting and experiencing very low FPS.
How many you got on the Alpha Gate?
FPS.
There's an Atlas.
Excuse me.
It needs deading.
Community warfare is a lot more expensive than the regular public matches, and right now we're trying to figure out why. You might think that it's all the mechs, but it doesn't seem to be. So unfortunately, I'm not going to have a great answer for you on this podcast. Just saying that, you know, it's a priority to profile and optimize community warfare matches as soon as possible. I mean, you can correct me if you're thinking that you know, it's in general the game, even like regular public matches, because we're definitely not at the moment priority-wise focused on regular public matches. From my own testing, those matches with a lot of the optimizations and things that we did for community warfare, I think are even running a little bit faster than they did prior to community warfare. But community warfare itself is significantly slower, and right now it's just all we can say is we're working on it, but we don't have a fix planned or scheduled just yet.
All right, I do want to use this time real quick as well to let people know that if there are questions somewhat like this one that can't specifically be answered by Russ, maybe it needs an engineer or you know, somebody with specific skill set or knowledge, we will look into that and try and get the question answered within a couple days of posting this up on YouTube and SoundCloud and so forth. So we're going to try and get these questions, if it's possible, answered.
Well, I had a question in regards to that, Russ, and this has been brought up multiple times by the community, and I think even sometimes staff. Scale form, the UI in the game, the performance hit, if you turn on and turn off, is pretty dramatic, and obviously that will continue to be an issue. Have you guys looked at possibly replacing the use of that technology, scale form, and replacing it with something else?
I feel I can't answer that tonight. You know, unfortunately, it's the same question really. We're profiling, we're trying to figure out where the frames are, and you're right, you turn off the HUD, whatever, it speeds up, but you know, that doesn't really help us until we know exactly why. Anything else made around scale form, whatever, is mostly assumptions. I mean, it's true the fact that it's slower.
Let them get through the game.
And right now, the only thing I've heard solidly is that there are aspects of the HUD. Let's just take, for example, like the little Dorito that pops up, you know, on targets and such. There's no particular reason we have to draw something like that with scale form. So basically, you know, we can look to swap some of those things out to more traditional code implementations of the user interface so that it'll become faster. So right now, our only real initiative is to perhaps trade some things that currently use scale form and program them more low level, I guess, as you would say. And so that should definitely, we should see improvements doing that.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, we will try and follow up on some of these questions, as well as maybe, you know, the next Mechs Devs and Beer will have the appropriate devs on to ask some of these questions and get more in-depth answers. The next question comes from Drake Hunter. His question is 30 plus minutes for matches, referring to community warfare. Are there plans to fix this?
Well, I wish you would have been a little more specific, because first thing I thought of was like a 30-minute game timer, but I don't think that's what he's referring to, right? He's referring to
queue time.
Sounds like queue times. Well, yeah, I think we've already announced a lot of things that we're doing to fix it. I mean, would we like to talk about any of those things in particular? You know, things that we've already mentioned, and then in the roadmap as far as, you know, what we're doing to improve matchmaking and queue times. Should I just jump into it all randomly, or what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, because we've discussed a few of these things, I know that there is some stuff coming that's going to help immediately. So yeah, might as well just jump in at random, talk about some of the things that are going to help with queue times. This is actually one of the most brought up issues with community warfare at the time, at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get it in there and say that first off, I think we need to, you know, put things into perspective here a little bit, and that you know, right now, of course, there's a lot of angst. It just in the last week or so, things kind of like, oh my god, like, you know, things are terrible and falling apart. But we need to remember that, you know, just like a month ago or so, it was like nothing but excitement and like, wow, you know, this is amazing, so fun, good job. This is just like, wow, wow, wow. And I expected this completely, because this is exactly how things work. And I tried to stress, you know, basically like, you know, this is beta, and it's not, I think we're onto something here that's great. It's a game changer. It's incredibly fun. I think it's the base for what can become you know, legendary as far as, you know, MechWarrior gaming, you know, of all time, but there wasn't a lot of content there. So, you know, people have gotten through the content now. And even though we're like, what, a little less than a month still into the beta for Community Warfare, people are, you know, starting to get a little bit anxious about things. And I just wanted to say, like, it was never the intention that, you know, the initial phase, this initial phase of, you know, planetary conquest, that it would completely and utterly, you know, replace all previous aspects of MechWarrior Online immediately as soon as it went live. But I know for a lot of players that's really what it's done, because it's different, it's unique, it's you know, funner than going back and playing the, you know, original public queue and group queue that they've been playing for so long. So I completely understand that. But, you know, let's keep it in perspective and know that we haven't, it didn't just become, you know, no good in the last month. What happened is, you know, we've caught up with the content's been consumed, and now we're working as fast as we possibly can to get out as much content as we can. So I totally expected this would happen. We really had no chance whatsoever to be able to keep up with the, you know, ferocious appetite of the community. Having said that, you know, the first day back, it was like, you know, triage meetings like I alluded to, and then listing off exactly what we're going to do to make the game better. And queue times, there's a number of things we're working on. So let's just jump into that. And a lot of these things are coming January 20th. So, I mean, first off, we've already mentioned a few. So let's talk about that. There's grouping with any members of your faction. So to Drake, it should help. If you have, you know, friends on your friends list, there's the more people that you can group with, the better. So that's something that should help come January 20th. The other things that are coming is, first off, I think the biggest one is an improvement to the call to arms. So this is a good opportunity to explain how that works. The initial design, which was a good thought at the time, was, hey, you know, people are going to be fighting on this planet, so as soon as some battles start happening there, we just need to, you know, draw everyone's attention to that planet. So the way the call to arms works was, as soon as any 12-man strike team, you know, attacking or defending, kicks off a match, we're going to send out a call to arms. So what mostly happened was you'd have a whole bunch of 12-mans, especially now when you guys in the evenings are fighting over the most contested planets. There's could be hundreds of players per side fighting on that planet, and 12-mans just continually bump into each other non-stop, and there's constantly call to arms going out. So what happens is you'd click on the call to arms, and you'd, you know, go straight into that lobby. And there's really no need for that call to arms to go out. I mean, those 12-mans just have already kicked off. They're continuing to kick off, and you're just sitting there hoping and waiting that, you know, enough players show up. So the big change to call to arms is that, first off, in those busy situations, whenever a strike team kicks off a match, it's going to wait 20 seconds first before it sends out a call to arms. If two strike teams find each other and kick off, then there's no call to arms. But if a strike team is there and they're there for, what is it? I think it's, yeah, 20 seconds goes by and there isn't another strike team that shows up, then that's when a call to arms is going to go out, because it legitimately needs players, right? There isn't anyone to fight against, and the idea is that we don't want to have a 12-VO or an auto-win situation. So this is a legitimate case where a call to arms will go out. So now you as a player who actually click on the call to arms and get sent there, your chances of finding a match are now very good. Unless you're the 13th person that clicks on it, then potentially you've missed the opportunity. But it's going to be far more functional, the call to arms, than it used to be. Beyond that, it's also going to continue to send the call to arms out, I believe, every 30 seconds that not enough players have shown up to compete against that strike team. And I think even after it gets within 5 minutes of an auto win, the call to arms are going to take on a little more urgency. So the side benefit of this is that it should reduce the number of auto wins that are happening, even though that number is quite low. It's down to around 12% of matches in a day, and during those peak hours of the planet flip, it's significantly lower than that, maybe 1 per planet during the final few hours. So, but it should reduce that even further. It should be fairly difficult for an auto-win situation to happen unless all the members of that opposing faction just, you know, literally ignore the call to arms. So first thing I would do, say to Drake here is, if you've trained yourself to kind of ignore the call to arms because it never worked for you, start using them again. They should be meaningful and they should help. So, what else can I tell you about call to arms, or as far as helping queue info? That might cover the January 20th patch, but the following patch, people are working what I call in the roadmap the queue info. So I won't take very long to describe this because it's a lot of information, it's a lot of UI work. Essentially, if you remember some of the UI changes we made in one of the hot fixes before Christmas that added the ghost players lining up inside the lobby, and also added the numbers on the planet finder.
Post because I changed the date on that
It's more of that type of work, but it's, you know, probably 10 times more significant than those changes. Just lots of UI work where it'll tell you when you go to a planet, it'll actually show if all 15 zones already have a battle going on it, you'll be able to see the little swords and shields on all 15. It means there's already a battle happening everywhere. So if you're in a 12-man showing up, and there's already a battle in all 15 zones, you're going to be waiting. You're going to wait in the queue. And it's even going to show you the queue and if there's how many of these strike teams are lined up. And so you might have an idea at that point, like, well, we might as well go fight on the other planet because, you know, this one's full up and our team's got this covered. And it's going to make you much more efficient as a unit and as a faction to, you know, send your players where they're going to be of most use rather than just sitting in a queue. Everyone's queuing up in the last few hours hoping to get the planet where you might discover it's just not necessary. There's plenty of players there, and you may as well take a unit to another planet. So that queue info stuff can't be underestimated. So it's going to be really big. And that's going to help your solo players as well. The call to arms windows you see in that queue, you're going to be able to see how many, you know, if you should go around or not. So I think that's what you know, what I'll offer Drake at this point. So, you know, it's going to take a lot of work through it. This is months worth of work. It's not just a matter of, you know, reading one forum post and then, you know, creating all the fixes. I think everyone appreciates that. And I know there was a big thread on Reddit, and I want to let everyone know that we have been reading the forums and we have been reading the threads coming up on Reddit, and I've had the designers go through all those posts and basically say, read this whole thing, take notes. What are we already addressing in our upcoming patches? What aren't we addressing? We've made those notes, so first priority is to get through these patches that we've got lined up and all these fixes, and then we'll continue to reassess as well as look at the things that we haven't done yet and just continue to make improvements. But again, it's only been a little less than 4 weeks of beta, and half of that was a Christmas break. So we're looking at maybe 2 work weeks, you know, of beta time. So sorry, I know that might sound like an excuse, but it's just reality, and we're working on as fast as we can.
Target acquired.
Excellent. Thank you for the
maybe I
questions.
should just finish again and say, look, like, you know, it's going to take a few months to get this really polished up, and so don't think of it as, you know, the be-all replacement of, you know, the only mode in MechWarrior. And you have to spend some time in, you know, regular group queue and public queue, and we're going to have some weekend events again, and you know, as we improve this, so it's not just about waiting around. And actually, sorry, Darren, I think there is another thing worth mentioning as far as game times. So it's also about the 3 ceasefires, right? That's a really significant change, and I know there's been a lot of opinions on, you know, whether that's going to be great or not, or whether it's going to work out. I definitely think it's worth trying. So I'll try to run you guys through the mindset real quickly of how that thing went down. So we come back from Christmas, and we know that one of our biggest concerns is that, you know, you've got a 24-hour battle window. You have maybe the last 3 or 4 hours of that one battle window that are really meaningful, and therefore all of our players in Europe, Oceania, and just there's a significant amount of our players, you know, greater than 50%, that are just not participating in community warfare because, you know, they really can't based on their time zone. And so we had to handle that. And our first idea was to create, you know, 3 different ceasefires. There are 3 different competitive moments. And you remember our original design, we actually had battle windows, which I think would have worked out pretty well. You know, 2 or 3 hours that really, when the community warfare turns on for each of those